Bev,
Yes.
it's
Let's see.
Lisa. I just got an email from someone saying they were having trouble getting on, Deborah Knight with HUD. So I sent her the link again. Can we give it another minute or two?
Sure.
Okay.
Lisa, when she's able to join, do we have a quorum?
She's actually not a member of the committee
Right,
anyway. So
right.
I'm looking to try to see if I can tell. Got a quorum yet. Let's see. Just got an email from her. She says she's able to get in on her phone, but not her computer. So I'm trying to count, see what we've got. One. I don't think we have a quorum quite yet.
Do we know from RSVPs whether we will have a quorum?
I've gotten a lot of RSVPs that are not signed on yet, but a lot of times I get them when we first send out the meeting notice and then a week ago. So I think we could go ahead and start. There's nothing really that we have to pass that would, besides, the
We can just wait to
technicalities.
approve the minutes to see
Yeah.
what happens. Okay. All right. So Lisa, can you confirm that a press release was
I
sent?
can. The
All
press
right.
was notified. Thank you.
Okay. If we could go around the Zoom room and introduce ourselves. My name is Bev Merrill. I'm the chair of the committee. I work at Welcome House in Covington. And Lisa, I think everybody's muted.
I'm Christina Espinosa. I work at the Human Development Institute at UK. We're the University Center on Disability and do a lot of work around universal design and accessibility.
I'm Ann Price with People's Self-Help Housing in Vance Park, Kentucky.
I'm Phyllis Parker, and I work with persons with disabilities.
This is Zach Worsham with Winterwood Incorporated, based out of Lexington, Kentucky.
I'm Brian Perry with the Department of Education, proxy for Commissioner Fletcher.
Kathy Figel-Stellar, Department for Local Government.
I'm Jennifer Dagger, State Representative from Shelby County.
Yvonne Smith with One West from Louisville, focusing on west end of Louisville.
Deborah Knight from HUD.
Olivia McCowan, Home Builders Association of Kentucky.
This is Senator Brandon Smith, representing the 30th District.
This is Lona Brewer, proxy for Secretary Rebecca Goodman with the Energy and Environment Cabinet.
This is Michael Gardner, Rebound Inc. in Louisville, Kentucky.
Hello, this is Cedric with the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights.
And then staff, well, Kentucky Housing staff.
This is Kelly Reynolds, Kentucky Housing Corporation. I am the Assistant Director over Single Family Programs. I'm here going to talk to you today about our weatherization, which you guys are our overseeing committee of.
I'm Curtis Stauffer, Managing Director of Housing Contract Administration for KHC.
This is Shay Raybold with Kentucky Housing Corporation. I am the Continuum of Care Planning and Technical Administrator, and I'll be talking about K-Count data today on the agenda.
This is Lisa Barron with Kentucky Housing. Wendy Smith we got a call from the governor's office a few minutes ago that they need some information by 3 p.m. today in regard to the OMB notice that we received last night, putting a pause on all federal funding. So we can talk about that a little bit more in the meeting, but unfortunately, Wendy did have to step away to handle some of that. So I'm going to be trying to pinch hit for her as best as possible.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Adrian, I think you were talking, but we didn't hear you. I saw your mouth moving.
I love Zoom. Sometimes when it just decides that I've been talking too much and too loudly, and it automatically lowers my microphone. Adrian Bush, Homeless and Housing Coalition of Kentucky. Glad to be here.
All right, everybody. This is the time on the agenda when, if there are members who are not in the committee, who are from the general public, may raise issues that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone here today to do that? All right, then we will pass consideration of the minutes until, or unless we get a quorum. So Kelly, we'll move on to you with weatherization updates.
Perfect. And Lisa, are you doing slides?
I'm sorry.
You're
Forgive
fine.
me.
No problem.
Let me get over to there. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, everybody.
You're fine. It is a fun day in grant program world.
There we go.
For federal grants today. All right, perfect. All right, so as you all know, you all are the overseeing body over our weatherization programs as it's part of our policy rules that we have to have a policy advisory committee. So HPAC kind of adopted us to serve in that role. So I wanted to give you an update of what is to come, but it's an ever-changing process. So I think daily it changes. So we'll go ahead, Lisa, if you'll click forward. All right, so the first thing I want you all to know is we are working with our brand new subgrantee Frontier. We onboarded them in January of last year. We actually now have their first project underway. Ran into a few little problems this week, so we're correcting those issues. And then we're doing audits on their next 2 projects. So that's a good thing. We are doing a lot of learning and a lot of training in the field, which is something that we haven't had an opportunity to do in the past. So that's pretty exciting as well to provide that hands-on experience. So that's what's going on this week with Frontier, this new subgrantee. We also have a new workforce development administrator who's working on workforce development plans, and she's receiving right now TA from an outside party that's paid through NREL. So that she has gotten lots of ideas. He set up lots of national partnership meetings. We are starting to do the circuit with national conferences and just really looking at what others are doing on workforce development as it pertains to weatherization. We did also participate, the state participated in a wage survey with NASCAS, which is our membership organization. And that wage survey ended in September, but we had 100% participation out of our subgrantees. So that was really exciting. We've gotten some really good data from that. I've done some analysis on some national trends. As part of the committee that did that wage survey nationally, but we're going to get some really good information about workforce development out of that as well. We also have 2 new KHC monitors. So with all of the funding that we have received, we needed to hire new staff to just help monitor the funding. So they have received all of their certification tests, which is a pretty lengthy process and pretty grueling. The tests are very difficult. So they have passed all of those tests within 12 months. So that's pretty exciting as well. So those are kind of the general updates, Lisa. Right, bill updates. So this is the bipartisan infrastructure law that went into effect with the Biden administration. Last week, according to articles that I've read, which is the only information that I get because the Department of Energy has gone radio silent and is no longer able to speak to us, the bill spending and the bill got pulled in with the emergency climate executive order. So those funds are frozen and have been frozen since last Monday. But the update is our spending has been really slow. Our average costs per unit are really high. We're going to get called out in an OIG report. That is because we have been using that funding to replace vehicles because we have 5 years to pull that average cost down. So we use that. Our fleets had not been replaced since 2008 and 2009. So the vehicles were in very poor working condition. So that's why those average costs are so high. One thing that DOE did to help obligate all the funds, so maybe those funds wouldn't be taken away in a new administration, is we in the beginning were given access to 50% of our bill money. So our award was almost 52 million. So we had access to 26 million, but we had to meet specific production benchmarks. Once we met those benchmarks, we could get the remaining 50%. In January, DOE allocated all of the bill money to us. So we now have in our coffers the total 52 million, but we had to jump through some extra hoops to get to draw the money down. So unfortunately, we had about 2 weeks of draws that just didn't get approved before the funding was put on pause last Monday. We are using our bill funding to do a multifamily weatherization push. So our first projects are underway, so to speak. We were supposed to be starting our first multifamily project in Louisville. The actual work, physical work on location should be starting in late February. So fingers crossed that gets to happen. And then we have a new project that is starting in Northern Kentucky as well. Right. So this is what our multifamily weatherization kind of looks like right now. We onboarded an outside agency, a subgrantee. They are a community action agency. They are outside the state. They are out of Chicago. We onboarded them in November 2024 to run our multifamily weatherization piece of the weatherization program. Really what they are trying to do is it's the old adage, if you teach a man to fish, he's fed. So that's what they're doing. They are trying to teach us how to do multifamily weatherization while they are doing some of those projects. And then hopefully we will have the skill set and the network that we can then take that on within our own network in the state. So they started training our technical team in November 2024 as well. The first week of January, they were at Arcadia Park in Northern Kentucky, which is an elderly project-based complex. And they started doing some initial look at the just technical systems, and our tech team was able to go up there as well and do some observations and get some on-site training. So that project has started. Multipurpose will begin Shalom Towers in Louisville. That work again should begin in February 2025. There is an eGram message out right now. It went out last week and is also going out this week that we have 2 asks when it comes to weatherization for multifamily. We need properties for weatherization. So right now, everyone 66% of multifamily properties have to be income qualified. But if they are a USDA property or a project-based property, and 66% of the units are income-based through those subsidies, we can sweep the entire property and make it income eligible. So it makes it a little bit easier and faster. We don't have to go get applications from all of the residents. So we are looking for properties, but we are also looking for contractors. So anyone that might be in development, that might have some expertise or have contractors that have expertise in multifamily development, we would really like to be able to talk to them. CETA is definitely doing the lead on that because they know exactly the qualifications they're looking for, but that's where we would point them to. So we do have an eGram message going out, just trying to solicit those couple of things. All right, Lisa. So our DOE state plan. So every year for our formula money, we have to, and one thing I want to say, Bill, I want to back up. While they gave us access to all of our total award of 52 million, they also extended our projects or our contracts for 2 years. So they were originally 5-year contracts starting in 2021. Now they're extended through 2028. So they extended them an additional 2 years. So we actually had 7 years to spend the money. All right, so DOE's formula state plan, our formula money we have to apply for every year. It comes out in a 3-year grant. This would be starting in July 2025 would be the first year of a 3-year grant. But we do have to do a state plan every year. It's due on May 5th this year. Our next HPAC meeting, we will present that plan. I don't expect any major changes. There's a couple of major changes that we're going to look at doing is in the budget categories. DOE is allowing us to pull out our costs for energy audits, inspections, and any intake coordinators. We can pull that out of our average cost per unit. So we have to make separate budget line columns in the state plan. But pulling that out of our average cost per unit is only going to help us. It makes those average costs really down to like materials and labor on the job, which is really what you want to get at, in my opinion. So we are going to seize the opportunity. Those are optional changes. We're going to seize that. We need the help with our average cost per unit. They're really low. They only allow us about $8,200. So right now we have jobs as high as 30,000. So it really does make a difference when we're looking at that. And why do we have jobs that high? It's just labor prices, contractors, it just everything's increasing, and I don't see that getting any better anytime soon. So that's going to be the major change that you will see in that state plan. Everything else should remain basically the same. All right, I think that's it. Oh, CERT grant. Okay, so I put a little panda on here because, we did have our previous administration brought the pandas back to the United States and the zoos. So we got a little panda. But our CERC grant, this was a grant awarded to us in August that we applied for. It was supposed to have 2 functions. We were testing out triple pane windows and weatherization and rooftop solar. It was funded through the bill funding. It's not obligated to us yet, so we had not gotten the final approvals and release of funds. So I just have kind of stay tuned. My gut tells me that we're probably not going to get that funding, but we'll see. Maybe we will, and we can do some really cool kind of pilot projects. All right, I think that is it. Are there any questions about monitoring? I keep thinking I'm done. I'm not done. All right, monitoring. So our DOE formula and bill, we had an admin monitoring in September 2024. We did fabulous. We had no findings, no concerns. We only had 2 recommendations, so they were very small. We were able to implement that, do a small corrective action on it. It's pretty easy. We also had a Cabinet for Health and Family Services LIHEAP monitoring in September. Again, we had no findings, so admin, we're doing great on. Our DOE technical monitoring, it's supposed to be March 3rd through March 7th. So we are teeing up for that, whether they will get to travel or not, because I think there is a travel ban on federal employees. Although I have been told by NASCAS that they are still able to continue monitoring activities. So maybe they will be able to come out and do that technical monitoring. We are preparing as if it's still on. Again, DOE has been radio silence for weeks, so I don't know. Now I think I'm done. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Kelly.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to hop off and go process draws.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Shay, you are on now with the point in time count.
Okay, hang on just a second here. Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Shay Raybold with Kentucky Housing Corporation, and I am going to discuss findings from the 2024 point in time count. So let's go to the next slide, please, Lisa. And just one more. Okay, so a little background. I think several of you all on the phone are familiar with the point in time count. But there might be some that are new to the PIT. So the point in time count is required by HUD to be conducted each year by communities throughout the entire country. And the count has to occur on one night during the last 10 days of January. And in fact, our 2025 count is scheduled for tomorrow, January 29th. But the data that I'm talking about today is from last January. The point in time counts are organized by, and the findings are reported to HUD by continuums of care. And as a reminder, Kentucky has 3 continuums of care: the Lexington COC, the Louisville COC, and then what's called the Kentucky Balanced Estate COC. And Kentucky Housing Corporation serves as the lead planning entity for the Balanced Estate COC. And you might hear me refer to point in time using different terms today. So I just want to kind of ground everybody. Point in time, the acronym is PIT, but the 3 COCs, we call them different things just to confuse everybody. Lexington calls theirs the Lex count. The Balanced Estate, we refer to it as the K count. And Louisville used to refer to theirs as the street count, but I believe they call it just the PIT count now. Next slide. So, oh, one more back, please.
Sorry.
So the PIT count helps us determine a snapshot, an estimate, if you will, of the number of people that are experiencing literal homelessness on a given night in Kentucky, hence the term point in time. And so again, it's a snapshot. It's not meant to necessarily capture everybody that's going to experience homeless throughout the year, but just to allow us to be able to know on any given night approximately how many people are experiencing a specific subset of homelessness, which is referred to as literal homelessness. And literal homelessness means people who are sleeping in emergency shelters, certain transitional housing programs designed to serve people who are homeless, or people who are sleeping outside or other places not meant for regular human habitation. And we typically refer to people in that situation as being unsheltered. Next slide. So looking at the data that was collected on a single night in January 2024. So again, this data is about a year old. And we anticipate that the data will have changed, certainly, between a year ago and now, but we don't know and won't know for just a little bit by how much. But it's still useful information to evaluate to see how we've been doing both compared to nationally and year over year. But so if you look at the entire state for the 24 point in time count, We had 5,231 people throughout the state on a single night that were experiencing literal homelessness. And the chart on your screen shows you the breakdown by COC, with the majority of people being found in the balance of state. So those are in the counties outside of our two largest metropolitan areas. Next slide. So this chart shows a 5-year comparison of statewide point in time count numbers. And you can see that they have gradually been going up over the past 5 years. I will point out that, in fact, I think the coloration of the chart, I made a mistake on where it's a lighter color for 2022. That was supposed to be 2021, but you'll see there's an asterisk there for 2021. And the reason I have that there is that was during, of course, the pandemic, and the balances of state and the Lexington COCs did not conduct unsheltered counts. So that number for 2021 does not represent anyone who is in a sheltered situation in the balance of state or where Lexington. So 2021, that data is not necessarily representative of what was going on. So for emergency shelters, this is a breakdown of how these, I'm sorry, I'm also dealing with technical issues. I've got pop-ups on my screen while I'm trying to concentrate here. This shows the 3 COCs over the past 5 years, how the numbers have panned out for emergency shelter. And Lexington had a little bit of a decrease, but both Louisville and the balance of state did see an increase. Next slide. Transitional housing had the fewest number of people, mainly because we have much less transitional housing than we used to. There was a decrease in both Lexington and Louisville, but we did have an increase in the balance of state. Next slide. So for unsheltered, there has been quite a bit of an increase year over year for all 3 COCs. The largest increase actually happened in the balance of state in terms of number of people. Percentage-wise, it was Lexington. But this is actually quite an increase, and it's larger than the increase that was seen nationally. Next slide. So this chart is showing an age distribution just for 2024. It's not multiple years, and this is for all 3 COCs. And you can see it's a little bit of a bell curve, but if you combine those that are 55 and older together, that comprises over 20% of the people experiencing homelessness, and those under 18 are about 14%. And so that brings, of course, additional issues with people who are aging, also experiencing homelessness. Next slide. I wanted to show you a breakdown of the household types by COC. We use 3 designations of household types: those with children, which would be adults and children; those without children, so 1 or more adults; and then those with only children, and that would be minors 17 and under on their own. And all three COCs have the vast majority of people experiencing literal homelessness in households without children, though you do see a larger proportion of those with children in the balance of state. Next slide. So now looking at household breakdown for those that are unsheltered. The screen we just saw had both sheltered and unsheltered. This one is just unsheltered. So again, the vast majority of people found on the night of the count were in households without children, though the balance of state did have some in both households with children and households with only children. And I just want to say kind of why this kind of information matters. When we're looking at the type of response system we have, whether it be shelters or housing programs, some are designed to only serve households with children or women and children, for example. But our data is showing that, at least in terms of unsheltered, the vast majority are those without children, and our response system is not necessarily fully able to respond to that need. Next slide. Gender breakdown. Again, this is just for unsheltered. These are the designations used by HUD. And you can see that for all three COCs, the majority of people were identified as men, and it would be a boy if a child, but just a reminder that the unsheltered numbers, except for the balance of state, were all adults. So these are primarily all men and women. And then there was a small percentage of people who were transgender, non-binary, or more than one gender in both Louisville and the balance of state. Next slide. So instead of making lots more charts, which I love to do, but I know that there's lots of other things to talk about today, I just wanted to share some additional special subpopulations that we are able to track through the point in time count. In terms of chronic homelessness, there's a federal definition, but to try to sum it up, it are people who've been homeless for a long period of time who also have a disability that makes their ability to live independently difficult. That's a quick way of defining chronic homelessness. But we have about 20% of the 5,000 plus identified as chronic homelessness, and followed by about 18% of those reporting having a serious mental illness, 17% with a substance use disorder. Veterans, the number of veterans from year to year who are experiencing homelessness is one area that has gone down, both nationally and locally, though it's kind of plateaued for several years in Kentucky. So we've got about 7.5% that's been around that amount for several years. Unaccompanied youth, which are youth 24 and under without an adult, about 5.5%, and then parenting youth, which would be 24 and under with a child in their care, is less than 1%. So if you have any questions, you are welcome to reach out to me. I know I kind of went through that quickly, but again, our 25K count will be, and point in time count as well, will be tomorrow. And then we will collect all the data from volunteers and organizations across the state and submit that data to HUD. It takes several months to get it all together for various reasons. But ultimately, the data is compiled for all COCs across the country and shared with Congress in a report called the Annual Homeless Assessment Report, which the 24 report was published this past December and is available online. So you can see how we stack up to other states as well. And then there's previous year's reports available online as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Hi, this is Christina Espinosa with the Human Development Institute. I was just interested to hear about the PIT questions around disability. Obviously, the chronically unhoused one, you said addressed those with physical disabilities, and then there's the mental health. Knowing that we have such a higher rate of disability across our state, I was curious how that translated, in the national numbers that you see in these questions, and what else we might know about in the data about those with experiencing disability.
Sure. So we ask about, and it's, self-reported. We ask people if they have various types of disabilities. And so of those that report, we ask about physical disability, developmental disability, mental health, and then substance use, I believe, are the primary ones we ask about. I think that we are consistent with kind of the national trends to be around that 20% or so that are self-reporting having some type of disability. But I cannot recall exactly off the top of my head. So what I'd like to do is respond to you an email, if that's okay, and send you the data exactly so I'm not misstating anything.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
I can say this just from seeing the point in time data from many years. at least in terms of self-reported information that's being shared with us, we're not seeing that having a disability is self-reported as the main cause of people's homelessness. We do ask that question, what is causing your current episode of homelessness? And it's one of those where they can say multiple things and we select multiple responses. But lack of affordable housing or inability to afford the housing that is available is the most common response. Though we do still have about 20% or so that are experiencing chronic homelessness, which means that they do have a disability as well. But just trying to say that in terms of stereotypes, the majority of our population, it's not that they are all experiencing disabilities, though those who are certainly have additional higher levels of need and need for resources, et cetera.
That makes sense. Thank you. Yeah, my thoughts are going to like how we can better resource and train even the facilities to be more universally designed, to be prepared to help provide resources, but also just to share more resources. So yeah, thank you for that.
Sure. It feels like it took a long time. It took 11 months for the report to be released. And Shay, I didn't know when the numbers were sent to HUD. Could Kentucky's numbers be released ahead of whatever process needs to happen with the national report? Yes, so the numbers were sent to HUD by KHC and the other COCs in May of this past year. There's a lot of details about why that is, but essentially the deadline to send them information was in May. And then they go through a process of evaluating what we've sent and confirming that the data is correct, kind of back and forth stuff. So, and then it takes them a while to do that. So we can and will, I'll commit to publishing at least the statewide numbers soon after we submit them to HUD, and they'll be preliminary until HUD has confirmed them. What takes longer is to segregate the information into the county by county information. Right. And it's because the data is submitted through both the Homeless Management Information System plus surveys, and combining those on a county level just takes a lot of time. So we can definitely get statewide numbers public soon after we report them to HUD. But the county stuff will probably be later in the summer. Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much, Shay. We appreciate it. And next we'll move on to Adrienne Bush, who will give us legislative updates.
So, just wanted to kind of bring people up to speed. The General Assembly gavelled in for the 2025 regular session in the beginning of January. And they were in session for 4 days, and then they recessed up until they will return February 4th, next Tuesday. And in the meantime, lots and lots of bills were filed. So we're reading through all of those, lots of ideas. In terms of some housing bills that I wanted to lift up for some attention, as you know, the LRC, Legislative Research Commission, created the Housing Task Force that met with during the interim from June through November of 2024. And of those members, a couple have filed some bills. One is Senate Bill 59 that was filed by Senator Higdon that seeks to streamline streamline planning and zoning requirements for religious institutions, so they can develop affordable housing. So we will see if that bill progresses. It has been assigned to the Senate Economic Development, Tourism, and Labor Committee. And then on the House side, Representative Susan Witten, who co-chaired the task force, has filed House Bill 160, which is a priority of the Kentucky Manufactured Housing Institutes. They're seeking parity in local zoning requirements for manufactured housing versus single-family housing. Basically, it would preempt local governments from enacting additional requirements for manufactured housing that they don't require for single-family traditional stick-built housing. And I was going to say that we will be having a legislative breakfast along with the Coalition for the Homeless, FAHI, and Kentucky Habitat for Humanity on February 4th at 8:30-ish and probably closer to 9 as the legislators come back into session. So if you would like more information about that, please feel free to reach out to me. We'd love to see you there. And I'm happy to answer it. As I said, a lot of bills were filed. I'm happy to answer any questions people may have about any specific bills, or offer Senator Smith or Representative Decker. I'm sure they may have filed bills that first week in the session. And obviously, if they want to share with the group, that would be a great time. But if not, that's okay too.
I haven't filed any bills, Jennifer Decker here, and but we'll probably next week, working on some now. I can report later. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
This is Senator Smith. Yeah, I have got some that I'm working on, but they're going to do more with Homeland Security. So it's not anything that would lead over to the housing issue.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you.
So do we have a quorum, Lisa? Can we approve
Yes,
the minutes?
we
or-
do have a quorum. I can.
Okay, so if everyone could please dig out your minutes and take a look at them. And if someone has had a chance to review them, if there could be a motion and a second, and if you could please include your name when you make the motion.
Lona Brewer, Energy and Environment Cabinet. I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. And a second?
Cedric Irvin with the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights, second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion approves the passing of the minutes. So Lisa, will we just hold then on the housing?
Yes, please.
Supply gap? Okay. All right. Does anyone have any informational items or announcements? All right. And are there any?
I'm sorry.
ahead. No,
It's
go ahead.
Lisa. I just wanted to sort of give a shout out to Deborah Knight, who is going to be retiring from HUD soon. And we just want to thank her for the years and years of friendship and support and hard work and commitment, and how much we'll miss you, but how much we wish you the best and hope that you enjoy your retirement and then eventually come back and do some more work with us.
Thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I've been so proud to be part of the Kentucky housing community all these years, working with such professionals. And I know Kentucky has the best reputation possible. So I appreciate working with all of you, and I'm going to miss you. And I look forward to hearing about all of your good work.
Thank you again.
Happy retirement.
Thank you.
Are there any suggestions for agenda topics for the next meeting?
Not a suggestion, and Lisa, sorry to put you on the spot, but could you give us any information you do know on the OMB notification yesterday evening?
I sure wish I could.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out what it means. Trying not to panic, trying to keep everyone else from panicking. We're working as much as we can to get any kind of clarity that we can. But from what we have been told at this point is that even current active grants where we have signed contracts, everything is on hold. It did say it was temporary, but we have no frame of reference or guidelines for what temporary means. So we will definitely get anything out if we're able to get any clarification, but we've been told by HUD in particular, everything's on hold.
When you say everything, there's some conflicting information in some of the things I've seen from OMB. Does the Housing Choice Voucher Program, do payments from the Housing Choice Voucher Program
We are
currently
not
stand as
clear
on
on
hold?
that. We're very
Okay.
much hoping that that's not the case.
Okay.
That's I mean, I hate to do a hierarchy of any of our concerns, but that's a top one, is to get some clarity on that. So as soon as we have anything, or if you hear anything,
Sure.
we had a previous meeting with Trust Fund this morning, and we are going to be joined, and Adrian, I don't know if you want to speak to it, but Adrian's facilitating a call with Senator McConnell's office ASAP. So we're going to try to work with them to see if we can get any clarity that way.
Sure.
I think, yeah, because I've seen the subsequent notice, the Q&A document, if you will.
Yeah, which I haven't seen yet, so.
Yeah, and it says like one of the programs exempted is rental assistance. What does that mean? Does
Well,
it
on the
housing
list
choice
of
voucher? Does it mean permanent supportive housing programs under the continuum of care? And that's the problem when you paint with a really broad brush.
Well, and on the list of affected agencies that OMB put out, the Housing Choice Voucher Program is listed specifically.
Yeah.
I guess a suggestion, Lisa, not that you need any suggestions, but
no, please, we're all.
With the first of the month coming up, I think as much information as could, get out to your rental housing partners who accept housing choice vouchers. We're all going to need guidance. Just to be frank, we're all going to need guidance on whether or not we're filing eviction notices.
No,
right?
exactly. And we are working on some egrams right now to try to get something out.
Yep.
But in the meantime, we're trying to get any kind of clarity that we can. But yeah, just know we're very much aware of that. We're very much aware of the timing that we only have a few months later and, a few days of this month. Honestly, I think our payments have probably already gone out for February. Normally from when we pay them, I don't know that for sure.
Great.
But they may have already been done. I hope. I'm going to go look at that right now. We've had meetings all day on Zoom, so that haven't been able to read anything or talk to anyone yet.
All right. If everyone would just look in the chat, just to note that there's a file that's been shared. But barring any other questions or discussions, we can adjourn the meeting. So the next meeting will be April 22nd at 1:30, and it will be in person. So I'll
I'll
see
get a
everyone
calendar
then.
invite out on that for everyone's calendar. I'll try to get that out later today, just so you'll have that next meeting on your calendar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.